Hello and welcome to that Atleti Podcast. This is our first live episode 47 of the show. I'm Jeremy Beren. Joining me, per usual, is Ricardo Menéndez. And we got a busy show, man. Lots on tap today for our first live edition. First of all, how you doing?
Pretty good. We're very excited for this opportunity to go live and read what our viewers and listeners have to say.
No, this is awesome. I'm glad we're doing this. And we do have a lot to talk about. So I do hope the chat is busy and populated and they have a lot to say. The Derby at the weekend was full of controversy. We'll be talking all about that. Antoine Griezmann's departure, transfer rumors, plus any comments or questions that we find interesting in the chat. We're going to talk about those as well.
Right.
But before we continue, if you are new to the channel, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Please like and subscribe as long as you're here. Leave a comment as well in our live chat. In addition, the audio-only version of this podcast, this is a normal podcast as usual. We're only just doing it live this time. It'll be available on your podcast provider of choice a little later on tonight. I'm going to get on that as soon as we're done here. Now that is all out of the way, in the first 80 seconds of the show, let's dive right into a controversy-riddled Madrid Derby. Ricky, where do we start with this? Do we start in the first 2 minutes?
And you wanted to skip the refereeing with Atleti's social media going ballistic,
which I love. And we're going to talk about that. I ordinarily don't like to get into big refereeing discussions, but I don't think you can divorce the refereeing from the context of how this match played out.
I mean, I love it for this derby in particular, and always against Real Madrid. You get the feeling of getting robbed. There's always something going on there, and I just can't help it. I've grown up in this atmosphere of you try your best, but we know that Real Madrid is always going to win, and they have like this kind of looking you down and not giving you your dues. So I'm really happy that Atletico Madrid is standing up for what they think is right.
Well, there have been a couple of statements issued by the club. This is the latest one from today. Ricky, why don't you translate this for our viewers?
Let me get it on my screen because I'm watching on a very, very tiny screen. I can't get it on my screen. Just give me a second. That one, which one is it? The first one, because they use the same image twice.
Yeah, my bad. This is the first one that came out yesterday, and then they sent out another missive today when Valverde's suspension was reduced from 2 games to 1.
Yeah, it says after 2 days, the machinery has focused on the. No, that's the one for today. The one they. I was right. After 2 days, in which the machinery has focused on a play that has been ratified, we have one doubt. How can you end a derby with only 2 fouls? We're waiting for the Tiempo de Revisión show, which is a kind of show that the CTA, the refereeing board for the Spanish FA, is trying to run as a means of providing transparency, to their operations, which is kind of rich when you think about it, because they are the least transparent body you can think of. And this Manuela Montero, the referee that we had the other day, that we had the pleasure to enjoy the other day, complained about how his family had been bullied after giving Bellingham a red card. 1 year ago,
Real Madrid tried to tie Manuela Montero's like personal businesses
exactly
to Atleti. Yeah.
Yes. So he was very well coached on what had to happen. And if you, I don't know if you have the stats there for the match, but if you pull them up, the foul figure is just ridiculous.
The foul count was 15-2. 2 fouls for Real Madrid.
And
95 minutes.
Atletico Madrid, along with this post on Instagram, for example, they added a set of different plays where they thought that Real Madrid wasn't being punished for plays that where there was some diving involved. They focused on a Vinicius play. they focused on several blatant fouls that weren't called, and it was just in Spanish. Whenever there's a blatant foul and you see that the referee just doesn't want to doesn't want to call it, they say "sigan, sigan." It's like keep playing, keep playing,
keep playing. Yeah,
you got a lot of sigan from Munuera that night, and I mean, Coque was just talking to Manuela all the time, like saying, "You're really not calling everything you're seeing on the pitch," and that's what's. I was amazed that right after the match, Cardoso came out and said, "We were not happy with the refereing. This flying kick." That's the way they
did a short about
flying
that.
Kick from Carvajal.
Look at this on the screen right here. How is this not a foul?
That should have been a red card. That's more of a red card than Valverde's play. And the Carvajal play with Llorente is the other one that is.
It felt like a train went through me. That's what Llorente said after the game.
There's a spotlight on that play. I mean, we know that Llorente blew out his knee trying to hit a player. I mean, that's what he does. That's a special order by Carvajal. That's what he does as a player. He just whacks players and gets away with it. The thing is that this time Atletico just hasn't settled for the standard answer. I don't know if you've heard about the Spanish broadcast and how Molina's goal was dubbed Valverde-esque. That's the best they could come up with. It's such a good goal that it feels worthy of Valverde. That's the kind of media treatment that you're getting, and
the unbiased commentary on Movistar.
Yeah, and it was just ridiculous to the point of being laughable. Atletico de Madrid have taken the ironic, sarcastic twist on it, but turning it into a campaign that I think is really, really hurting Real Madrid's image, because I think that I don't know if you read the piece by Mundo Deportivo today. The reach of Atleti's statement has gone beyond 12 million views. It's been replicated by international websites. Bayern Munich fan sites have taken careful note of what can happen to them, because they're up next in the pecking order, and they know that it's going to be a complicated match, not only from the football point of view, but also from what's going on with the refereeing, and here it's just ridiculous. This the image that you put up before, the one about Atleti's campaign, there's been a follow-up today with one where Valverde's foul
suspension was reduced from 2 games to 1.
Well, it wasn't reduced. He was just given 1 game. When Virgili and I think it's Soain have been suspended with 2 games for exactly the same kind of explanation in the refereeing report.
Yeah, the club used the example of Oyan Sanset getting a 2-game suspension for the exact same action. The wording is slightly different in the referee's notes, but they're the same action.
Yes, it is.
Everything working as it should, according to the club.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And you know what? I would love to have seen this reaction last March with the whole double kick BS.
I think they feel they have a feeling of remorse that they didn't go as far as the Unión de Peñas, the fans association has gone, of suing UEFA and taking this to the ultimate consequences. I know nothing productive because you can't turn back time is going to come out of that, but at least it's slapping the refereeing board on the hand and telling them to do better, because that's what this is all about. They have to do better, and they're not going to get away with it anymore.
And it's not the first time it's happened just in the past couple of years. Mbappe had an action similar to this last year, as our pal, friend of the show, St. Keeks points out. He only got a 1-game suspension. I think that was a really nasty tackle against Alaves. That was a red card foul. But going back to the match itself, really interesting comment here from Monolith 7183. our defense, the Atleti defense, when have we ever scored so many away at Real and Barca? More clean sheets, and the season might look a bit different. Atleti might be closer to the top two teams in the league.
I
But
think
the
the
past few
configuration
games,
of this. I think the configuration of this team this season is the depth that it has comes at a price. It's lost its capacity to remain as solid defensively as it has in the past, but it has much more firepower, and the firepower obviously has its downside. These players are not as capable defensively as other players that they have had in the past. So I think it's just you have to measure what you prefer. I'd rather go to war with this the roster that we have this season than the roster we had last season. I don't know if you agree with me on that. Now that Atleti have a really really big opportunity to win the Copa del Rey, who knows what can happen against Barcelona? I think they're going to go all out on those three games. And
they have the first one in the league because Atleti aren't going to have a midfield.
They have the luxury. They have the luxury of managing of putting La Liga in management mode and just deciding what players they want to rest. If you think about it, in cold blood, Atleti should have. It was in Atleti's best interest to lose the Derby, because now Atleti can sit back and see how Barcelona have to go all in the Liga match, and they did not have to go all in when Atletico Madrid was getting a point out of that match, or if they had won that match. It's a situation that is, if it benefits anybody, it benefits Atletico de Madrid more than Barcelona. You can see one of these watered down Atletico de Madrid's playing Real Madrid. Playing Barcelona starters in La Liga and wearing them out.
And then they got to go up to Camp Nou a few days after that.
And they have to face them again in Champions League the following week. So that's going to be very interesting to see how Atletico de Madrid are going to be able to manage how they go into these games and what effort they put into these games, opposed to the situation they would have been in if they had given Barcelona sufficient gap who also do the same thing, to rotate players. Now they don't have the luxury of rotating players, because if both teams play that game and they come up with a draw, or Atletico de Madrid pulls up an upset win, they get Barcelona into trouble again in La Liga, which is right now their winning horse. They can win La Liga, and they can add the cherry on the top of the Champions League for them, which would be massive. And Atletico de Madrid are playing the same game. They're clearly going for the Copa, and if they can get past Barcelona, it seems like you've gone through a very difficult hurdle if you are able to cross that river of overcoming Barcelona in the Champions League tie.
Which will not be easy, but as we've been discussing for the past couple of shows, I do think it's possible. I do think it's feasible. Given the Copa del Rey semifinal, how that played out. But as you said, Ricky, the race for La Liga is caliente because of this Real Madrid win. There's now 4 points between Real Madrid and Barca at the top of the table. It's interesting. We already know the time of the Clásico on May 10th, but we don't know anything about the other matches that week or the fixture times before that or the week before that. We don't know anything about that, but we sure as hell know when the Clásico is. Awesome.
Yeah. That just shows you That just shows you how dishonest this conversation actually is.
But we have to have it. It is dishonest, but it's the only one we can really have.
They have two winning horses. They have two teams that they care a world about, and the rest are just there to make things interesting for Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah,
and that's what Atletico de Madrid is calling out with this campaign, this most recent campaign, which I think is. It might be the one that really breaks up any kind of working relationship between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, because
Good. There shouldn't be
things
one.
have really soured. And yeah, it's one of these things that there's some friendships that you really can't have because they're toxic relationships. And getting on well with Real Madrid is a hell of a toxic relationship for Atletico Madrid. I'm happier knowing that they know that we hate them, and we know that they hate us.
Yeah,
they can't say
it's
anymore.
Rivalry. It's how it should be.
Yeah, they can't play that card anymore. That where that little brother that is harmless. They know we can do them harm, and we've done harm in the past, and we'll continue to harm them in the future. And I think that things are looking bright in that aspect.
I do hope this is a sign of things to come. The statements that we've seen the club put out on social media in the past couple of days. I do hope this is a harbinger of what we can expect under Apollo Sports Capital's ownership.
Oscar Mayo
has ambition.
is retweeting these statements. So he's definitely behind it, and we all know that Oscar Mayo is one of the head figures in this transition towards a new era.
Yeah, he's possibly going to replace Miguel Angel as the CEO.
Definitely.
That's a possibility in the next couple of years. You asked earlier whether I agree with you regarding the assertion that this Atleti team is better built to compete next month relative to last year's team. And I think I agree, but it is pending health. It is pending fitness. The past 2 games without Marc Pubil, Atletico have shipped 6 goals. And Oblak hasn't been playing. Pablo Barrios, we know, hasn't been playing. The team has been beset by injury in the past couple of rounds. 15 games in 45 days will do that across 3 different competitions. That will happen. So I don't think Barrios will be back for the Barca tie, but Pubil should be back.
I'm starting to wonder whether he's going to be back in time to be a competitive part of the Copa del Rey final.
I think that's the hope. I guess that you're absolutely prioritizing the Copa del Rey in my mind, because that's a direct shot at a trophy.
Yeah,
if you have to pick one, it's the Copa.
Yeah, you do. But is Barrios game ready? I not if he's healthy enough, if he's had enough rest. Is he competitively prepared?
Can he play 20, 30 minutes or more if they need him?
Can he be a starter on that date? I don't think he has time, because the games that come before are going to be so demanding, so high tempo, that Atletico de Madrid is going to have to go full throttle. It's not going to be there's not going to be a way of being able to ease him in. Time for the Copa del Rey final. I think it's a really big conundrum right now, and knowing how Simeone eases players in. I think that Cardoso, Coque have a bigger chance at playing the Copa del Rey final than Barrios does, even if he's healthy. As a starter, at least.
Just the scenario where that changes is if Barrios is healthy or is deemed fit by the Sevilla game, because that would be a really nice opportunity to rotate him in. We talked about this with St. Keeks last week, but the lineup that Simeone is going to throw out for that game will be heinous. He's going to make 10 changes, 11 if he can, just in preparation for those next 2 games.
That's practically the only opportunity you have to ease him in. Because,
that's the only one.
I don't know if you have the schedule that I sent you before. But
I do. Yeah, let me pull that up right now.
It's going to be back-to-back Atleti Barcelona games. Then you have Sevilla, and all the rest of the month is like top competition. There's going to be a sort of, I don't know, it's going to be such a feeling of decompression after the Copa del Rey final. Maybe you're heading towards a Champions League semifinal, but even in that case, I think that this is probably that's those 5 days between the Atletico Madrid Barcelona game on the 14th and the final on the 18th. I was talking before in the Spanish podcast that it's probably the 5 most relevant days in the last 5 years for Atletico Madrid.
100%. since the league win.
Yeah.
Well, have no fear, Ricky. Seif here in the chat says he can play center back against Sevilla.
Okay, yeah, well.
So Seif will do a job. Got faith in him.
He has to send us a jersey size, and we're all set.
We're all set. Yeah, we're good.
I mean, he can't be worse than Clement.
Or Clement, man. Not even a consideration anymore. This time last year, Lenglet was starting. Imagine that.
You're going to see something like this month.
I know we are. If nothing else, it is an audition for his next club because I don't think he'll be at Atleti.
Well, we've already managed to put together the highlights to sell Molina away for a ton of money. Thanks to these crazy goals.
I was going to ask you about Molina. What's been going on there? Because I was reading in Marca yesterday that in the past week he has scored 2 of just the most spectacular goals in the 2 games before the Getafe and Real Madrid games. 7 goals and 168 appearances.
He scored like
what's been going on with Molina? What does this mean for the upcoming fixtures and maybe his future at Atleti?
I think he's going to play every single Liga game. I'm pretty sure of that.
Which honestly, that's good. That's good. We can't burn out Llorente.
Before, when we were trying to unpack the midfield situation, being able to play Molina gives Llorente the possibility to supplement that midfield that we have with Coca and Cardoso. Coca shouldn't be getting this amount of play time. I'm pretty convinced that Simeone is going to go back to what has worked for him in the Copa del Rey final. I think I'm seeing Llorente going back to the right back, a little bit of what St. Kix, the logic that St. Kix was giving us last week, that he's just too good of a right back to think that you can move him around and play around with that position too much. So I would say that we'll definitely be seeing our, let's say, preferred defensive line in the Copa del Rey final. I'm just unsure what's going to happen against Barcelona in the Champions League tie, because there is a tendency for Simeone to believe that Molina is very good at defending players man-to-man, and he does resort to Molina to do that kind of dirty work, and he hasn't been bad at doing that in the past. It hasn't been his worst performances when he has to go man to man. But I don't know. I would say that the Liga defensive line is going to be Ruggeri, Langlais, Lenormand, or Jimenez, and Molina all the way. We're going to have those 5 players getting as much play time as they can, giving Hansko rest time, giving Pubil rest time. Ruggeri's young, he can play everything. And Llorente, unfortunately, which players from the starting 11 that we played the Derby are not going to get that much rest time. I don't see Llorente resting too much. I don't see Juliano resting that much. I think that the Julian Alvarez situation, he sort of demands playing rather than resting. So he's going to be playing more often than not. I would say those 3 players are going to be like fixtures, and they're just going to play around with the rest. I'm sure that St. Kix can suggest some canteranos to fill in the holes.
Yeah.
In the starting 11. It would be awesome to see Atletico Madrid lining up 4 or 5 players from Atletico Madrileña against Barcelona in La Liga to make them run around like crazy and wear them out. I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be great to see that.
Well, I did just see this pop up on my my Twitter feed. Alarma Rafinha, Ricky. This is in Mundo Deportivo. He was subbed off in the Brazil-France friendly, and he is going in for tests with a suspected muscle injury.
This is the time where the famous FIFA virus is going to bite some teams in the butt, and this cannot come. I mean, all my best wishes for Rafinha. I hope he has like a 20-day recovery and he comes back fully healthy around the 17th of April
That would be great. Yeah.
To be ready.
An injury that rules him out until April 15, April 16 would be
exactly. Yeah. That would be ideal.
We saw just how much that Copenhagen changed.
Yeah. Recover from the jet lag and all that.
It takes time. Listen, this friendly was in Massachusetts. It was at the Patriot Stadium there. So, it takes time. Jet lag is nasty.
God bless the stadium.
Let's see. What else did I have lined up from the Madrid game? I had a question here in the chat about Johnny's yellow card, which is going to cost him the Barca game. We know Llorente is suspended after picking up a yellow card. What did you think of Johnny's yellow card? I thought it was a little weak, a little harsh.
I love them. I mean, I love him from.
I'm glad they're not going to play, but I thought the yellow card decision was kind of a weak one because he does win the ball and Pitarch just falls over his outstretched stud.
Yeah, but that way Simeone can't have the temptation that he sometimes have of playing players he shouldn't be playing. So just giving them forced rest is ideal. The booking is ridiculous from the refereeing point of view. I'm refraining as much as I can from going down refereeing lane, but you keep leading me back there.
I'm sorry to keep leading you there, but I can't divorce that from the rest of the match because it conditioned it a lot. And I don't like talking about refereeing decisions unless they're like really front and center.
Yeah, the situation is exactly the same reason why he doesn't call Carvajal's penalty is the reason why Johnny gets booked.
Dani Carvajal, one of the great gentlemen of Spanish football, is what they tell me. Just man is a walking orange card. You mentioned Alvarez and how he might not get any rest for like the third or fourth summer in a row. I do want to mention that Alvarez had an interesting, if not good, derby. He's key to both goals that Atleti scored. Yeah. The first goal, he plays the diagonal for Lookman. And we're going to circle back to Lookman during our Griezmann discussion.
Yeah,
and then the second goal, he assists Molina.
The Lookman play is probably one of the best plays in Atleti's season.
Great goal. The back heel from Giuliano. Great goal.
I would say the build-up, the awareness, the spatial awareness that Lookman has, knowing exactly when Ruggeri is going to come. I don't know how the hell he sees him because I've looked at that play a million times and I don't know how he gets to see him out of the corner of his eye. Pace it exactly for Ruggeri to barely make it, cross it, and that Giuliano touch is it's just superb. For all those that say that Giuliano is playing there out of blatant nepotism, there's nepotism for you. I'm rooting for our nepo baby, assisting for Lookman and Lookman's capacity to just hold the ball in the right with just the right amount of strength and slotting it into the side. What a beautiful goal! What a beautiful goal! And
he's been taking pointers from Griezmann, as Monolith 7183 points out. He's been taking pointers from maybe the king of the back heel assist, Antoine Griezmann.
Yeah, that's crazy. How does Griezmann is right now? Griezmann is playing some of his best ball, but I think that he's also mentoring some of the players and extending his legacy beyond just his play time to other aspects and passing the torch on in a phenomenal way. We talked about Lookman's impact on players like Ruggeri or Simeone. I think that we can also see Griezmann's impact on Lookman himself or on Giuliano Simeone as well.
Which is one of many reasons, Ricky, as we switch gears a little bit, why it is such a shame that this is the last dance with Griezmann. Confirmed this week that he was in Orlando. He might still be there, but it was confirmed after the derby in Marca. They had it first that Griezmann was on his way to the U.S. to sign a 2-year contract with Orlando City. He posted a really, really nice statement to his Instagram when this move was announced on Tuesday. Very quickly after the derby, that was all sorted out. I guess the first question that I have for you, Ricky, is is naturally going to be about Griezmann's legacy. And how do we identify Griezmann as a legend, an absolute legend, like the number one legend, or did he give that up by moving to Barcelona?
I mean, I've been having this debate all day long, and it's a debate that's impossible to either win or lose, because it all depends on how you identify what an idol means to you, what a true legend means in terms of legacy. I mean, if you're taking it from the statistical point of view, there's no doubt that Griezmann is up there. I was looking up the amount of games. He's positioned eighth in the total amount of games. He's going to reach Artete, another incredible legend, before the end of the season, and he's going to cement his legacy as the seventh player that has played the most amount of games for Atletico Madrid. He's the top scorer. He's overcome two of the biggest legends in Atletico history, Luis Aragonés and Adelardo. Of course, all the rest of the goal scorers. Is he more of a legend than Fernando Torres, for example, who only scored 126 goals for Atletico Madrid? It's very difficult to say. I mean, if you ask me, who is your personal legend? For me, it's going to be Torres. It's going to be Torres, and it's going to be Futre, because I grew up watching them.
Sure.
But yeah. I was telling the story. I mean, for my kid, he's been in love with Griezmann's game since he was 7 or 8 years old, and now he's a university student. So growing up, seeing such an absolute legend like Griezmann, for him, he's always going to forgive those childish behaviors, the decision, ridiculous situation of this season I'm not going, the next season I'm going because I want to play with Messi, and I'm going to shoot a documentary about it, and now I'm going to kind of fake that I leave mid-season. If you talk to older fans, some of them really hate Griezmann. They can't stand him. They want him gone, and they will never forgive him. But because of pictures like this, because he's done things like this mid-season, he's been negotiating his future mid-season. But I think this is a situation that the club has put itself into on their own. The Griezmann situation, when he went to Barcelona to make 25 million gross salary, 25 million euros per year gross salary. When he came back, he cut his salary in half.
It was like 10 or 11 million, and he's cut it further since.
He's cut it further, and he decided to defer, to spread out the payment of one season over 2 seasons. That happened in June 2025. And when that was set in ink and paper, obviously, when you cut your salary in half, there has to be some kind of compensation. What was the compensation? He got to decide his future. He got to decide when he exited. That's why when you saw Mateo Alemán come out and say, we can't assure that Griezmann is going to stay, and Simeone say, I hope that he does what is best for him and for Atletico Madrid. They put his future in his hands. And Griezmann's agent, who is his sister, by the way, has tried to press him into taking this step, because from the financial point of view, it's a way of recovering that cut that he received, and it was a best situation for him economically. What we can't do is have it both ways. We're constantly playing the game of wanting players to leave when we think it's time for them to move on. We're trying to sunset Jimenez, who probably has to go at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think he's going to.
6 months ago, we were talking about Koke and Griezmann's last season. If we were okay with that 6 months ago, we have to be okay with the fact that he built a loophole into his contract, and he had an exit ramp set there in case he wanted to take him. He got to decide when he exited, not the club. And that's something that the club had accepted, and that's something that Simeone knew. So playing, you can't have it both ways. You have to decide if you want to consider him a legend, that's fine. If you want to consider him a traitor and that he's moved on from Atletico de Madrid twice and he shouldn't have, that's okay. If you think that's your point of view, I think that he's an incredible player. We've gotten to enjoy 10 seasons of wonderful play time from him. Mostly, he's had a couple of terrible seasons, but mostly the Griezmann experience has been top notch, and it's up there with those players that I absolutely idolize. Is Griezmann, for me personally, an idol? No, he's a player that I love, but probably because I'm past the age of idolizing players. I just want them to play for the team and be great players, and if they can, to cement a legacy and forge a legendary status. But if you ask a younger generation than mine, they'll probably say that Griezmann is an absolute legend for them, and they'll forgive him the strange things that he does, this childish behavior that's
the foolishness that he engaged in when he was younger.
Exactly.
And I do have a take on that I'm going to circle back to, but I did see this question pop up in the chat right before we started, and I've been saving it for this discussion. Let's say Atleti go out in the UCL quarterfinals, and let's say they lose the Copa del Rey final, which is a nightmare scenario. How does that affect Griezmann's legend and stature? I don't really know. I don't think it really does. Winning the Copa del Rey is an ideal end for his time here.
It just doesn't give it a fairy tale ending. But that's okay. That happens sometimes. I mean, Gavi didn't get a fairy tale ending. Neither did Godin, and Ferran Torres kind of did. But you get this all the time. I mean, it's great to leave at the pinnacle of things. For your last visit to be a visit to Neptuno, to get a really easy, nice last match day, and to get that tribute that Ferran Torres, for example, got in the Vicente Calderón. That would be ideal. Is that going to affect Griezmann's legacy? Which is okay, but I think that it doesn't match everything that the club has won, because he happened to exit Atletico Madrid for that period of time where Atletico Madrid turned into La Liga champion. And I'm trying to read some of the comments. It's very distracting because I'm seeing my face like with a 3-second delay at the same time. And Saif's saying some really interesting things, that some Spanish fans hate Griezmann. Some Spanish fans can't forgive Griezmann for moving to Barcelona. They're absolutely unable to do that. And I've been having this debate in the other podcast all evening long. The thing is that those same fans idolize Luis Suarez, who was here for a season and a half and came on a free from Barcelona,
right,
where he was rejected, and they say, yeah, but Griezmann came back because this is the only place where they would have him, and we saved his career. Yeah, it can be a little bit of both. I mean, it could be good for both sides. It was great for Griezmann to find a route back home, and it was great for Atleti to get Griezmann back. And they made money off of all this because they sold Griezmann for not the entire amount of money, but almost for the entire amount. They were able to pay for Joao Felix. Then they got Griezmann for pennies. They sold Joao Felix for a crazy amount, but they had to buy Conor Gallagher, and now they've offloaded Conor Gallagher. So if you
and they made their money back.
They've made money off of all this operation. So how can you complain about the situation from a financial point of view? It's genius. So I understand that some players, some fans are absolutely unable to forgive players, but it's because of the overexposure that players have now on the internet. Every single statement that they make. My
social
brother,
media just heightens
my brother
everything.
has stopped. My younger brother has stopped liking Julian Alvarez because of his statements the other day. He thinks it's a blatant betrayal to, and I just think it's a clumsy statement. And you'll get a ton of clumsy statements if you get a microphone poked at you when you've just finished a game and your and your heart rate is through the roof. I just think that modern players are much more exposed to having their thoughts microanalyzed, and if we ran the same magnifying glass through all of the legends that we had on Atletico Madrid, we'd find similar criticism for every single player that we hold dear to our hearts. So yes, some fans will always hate Griezmann and will never give him his dues. But for my son, for example, he's the best player that ever played for Atletico Madrid. He wears his jersey with the biggest amount of pride, and he has 3 different Griezmann jerseys. He can't.
I was going to ask which one he had.
Number 7.
What
yeah,
years
3 of them. He has a ton of them. He's only had a Marcos Llorente one besides that one, and maybe he has a Carrasco one. But for him, Griezmann is his generational player. I was telling them the same thing, that the experience has to do with how long you've been following Atletico. This evening I was giving the example of my daughter. What I've told this story before on the podcast. I cried, I bawled like a baby in Hamburg because I thought I was never going to see Atletico Madrid win a title, let alone an international title. I was just crying my heart out, and that kicked off a period where Atletico Madrid has won a third part of their entire trophy case. They've won the third part of all of their combined trophies after 2010. When I took my daughter to Neptuno for the first time, that she was aware of things. I took her many times before that, but when she was around 5, she told me, "Why are we going to Neptuno again?" I said, "Atleti won a championship," and she said, "They always win a championship. Why do we have to go again?" That my daughter's 15 years old. That's her life.
That's all she's seen. All she's known is Simeone in this era.
Every few years, it's part of how kids perceive it now in such a different way as how I perceived it when I was their age. And depending on the people that are watching this or listening to this, I think that everybody has a different experience based on when they started to follow Atletico, and maybe they're able to forgive Griezmann. Maybe they have a more objective point of view, not being influenced by Spanish media and the overload that we get here on a daily basis. So I think that ties into what Saif was saying.
Well, on our site right now, Ricky, we have a really awesome and moving tribute to Griezmann from
that
friend of the show, Ryan McCain. Wrote this up a couple of days ago.
That's a beautiful piece.
Really, really well written, really well done. A great chronicle of Griezmann's career here, 10 years over 2 stints. And I think it does a really good job of capturing some of the complications of Griezmann's tenure here, which still can end in just the ideal way with silverware. I am a newer Atleti fan, well, certainly newer than you. I came to the club in 2012, right? So Simeone's first full season. So the Simeone era is all that I've ever known as a fan, following and a writer following the club day in, day out. And when Griezmann arrived here, and within 2 years he was on the Ballon d'Or podium, like we have one of the best players in the world. Like, this is incredible. He is the, other than Simeone, Simeone being the face of the club, Griezmann is the face of the team.
Yeah, and Jeremy,
for me, that was just so that was important for fans of a certain age and a certain time period. That was so important, and that's why it hurt so much when he left. I was so angry with him for a while, and then he came back, and I still struggled to forgive him. It took me. I remember exactly when I forgave him. I was in Lisbon, visiting a friend. It was my first time in Europe. I was going to fly to Madrid after that, so I was staying with a friend of mine, and Atleti were playing Athletic at San Mamés. It was an awful game. Griezmann scored a few minutes into the second half. Atleti won 1-0. And Griezmann, after the game, issued an apology. And right after that, his his loan move became an official permanent transfer. And he issued his apologies saying, I never meant to hurt the Atleti fans. I did what I did, and I'm sorry about it. I hope we can all move forward together. And that's when I said, enough is enough. Let's let bygones be bygones. And since then, we've continued to enjoy, well, Griezmann making history. He's the top scorer in the club's history, not just by 1 or 2 goals. He's now almost 40 goals clear of Aragones with 211.
Yeah.
You talk about club legends, he has to be in there. Although for me, I wonder if Koke is probably a bigger legend. Just the appearances record, the one club man. He's the captain and 728 appearances, never left for Barcelona. That hurts Griezmann, whether he likes, understands it, knows it or not. I think he has an understanding at this point in his career that did hurt him. For a lot of fans, it's like you were saying earlier, some Spanish fans just won't forgive him. And I understand that. For fans of a younger generation, Griezmann made them fans.
Yeah.
Griezmann was the reason they came to Atleti. He
That's
brought so
really
many
true.
new eyes and ears to the club.
The first player you kind of saw knockoff jerseys any part of the world that you travel to, and that's a sign of
Yes.
going international. When you see massive knockoff jerseys, that's Griezmann. And I think that's something that people don't recognize, how he's elevated the significance of Atletico Madrid as an institution, as a club. Fernando Torres helped in that growth. I think that the possibility of collecting a huge amount of money for Fernando Torres back in the day was huge for Atletico Madrid to grow. But also having Griezmann and enjoying Griezmann and having that World Cup winner on your team, that I think has cemented a name for Atletico Madrid in different parts of the world. And by the way, going back to the comments, my computer just went berserk and I've lost the window.
I did notice that you got darker all of a sudden. I was wondering what that was about.
Everything turned off suddenly. So yeah. Just to answer somebody that was writing and thank you very much for the comments. It's so overwhelming to see so many people paying attention. It's 13 minutes to midnight in Spain. We are absolutely live. This is not pre-recorded. And thank you very much for your kind words. It's so cool to have so many people that we love to read.
It's so awesome.
I try to get into the comments and read the good and the less good, the positive criticism. We can learn a lot from that. So keep them coming. The nice comments, the nice words, but also the other ones, the ones that help us grow, because it's great to have you, to have everybody on board and create this community. I think it's really nice to have this sense of community that we're able to little by little, thanks to your great channel, to bring everybody around the Atleti fireside.
It's Atleti, as you are so fond of saying, Ricky.
Atleti, exactly. That's a word.
This is what it's about. Now we have to talk about.
I'm a happy person.
Yeah, there you go. I just saw that. I just saw it pop up. Now we have to talk about the unenviable task that Alemany and the club have this summer, which is replacing this guy. This is what the Atletico Stats guys came up with, which shout out to them. They ran some numbers. They crunched the numbers, Ricky, and they think Julian Brandt, who is available from Dortmund on a free transfer, might be the most like-for-like Griezmann replacement on the market. A few other names here as well. Diario AS ran something today. Sergio Picos wrote it about how Atleti are keeping eyes on Lee Kang-in from PSG, Ibrahim Mazza of Bayer Leverkusen. I know you're not a big Lee fan.
No.
Brandt also makes an appearance
at the bottom of that chart, and I'm just going berserk. I can't stomach the fact.
Yeah, Mason Greenwood. Yeah, no, miss me with that. Miss me with that.
No. Please do not make that happen.
Absolutely not. I don't care how well he's playing in Marseille. I don't want him at the club.
Exactly. Yeah. But isn't that supposed to be Baena? That's my question.
Well, they wrote about this. They wrote about this in Diario AS. I'm trying to share my screen. Yeah, 3 months to find a Griezmann. Good luck with that. Good luck to find a guy who has meant this much to the club and to the team. Baena should have a larger role, more enhanced role next season. Like Baena kind of had his lunch money taken by Griezmann in the second half of this season. And plus, Baena, because of the injuries, was not playing regularly until the middle of January. And by that time, the team is your priorities are pretty much coming into focus, right? By that time, we knew the Copa del Rey was the priority. By that time, we knew that the Champions League, getting into the playoff, or getting into the top 8 and then getting through the playoff to get to the knockout stage proper, those were the priorities. I think with a more enhanced role for Baena, he can improve. But what is the best role for Baena? I think you and I roughly agree on this, that he should be playing as a second striker. And not as a pure midfielder, not really as a left midfielder or a left winger as he did at Villarreal, although he can play the role. I think less defensive responsibility, less physical responsibility might help him.
I think that no one at Atletico Madrid was expecting for Griezmann to be Griezmann this season.
No, they weren't.
Expecting for Baena to turn into Griezmann and take over that role. And because Griezmann's been this star appearance, and he's been so reminiscent of the Griezmann of the old days, and Baena has been a shadow of himself. That has been the perfect storm to take Baena completely out of the picture. And in case he wasn't demoralized enough, enter Lookman stage right on the left, and he has a stellar first games, and he turns into this godsend kind of player that is flipping the script and turning Atletico de Madrid's left offensive wing into an absolute nightmare for defenses, and being so unpredictable, and with a tool set that is so different to everything that Atletico had on the team so far.
I think it's Lookman. I think individually, if you are looking for one individual player to inherit the number 7 and to contribute in a way that Griezmann has and has proven that he still can, I think it's Lookman. Just everything he offers, tactically and technically, the talismanic qualities that he has of lifting and raising the levels of those above him. Why shouldn't it be Lookman?
Up to December, the idea was this team was going to move beyond Koke and Griezmann, and Julian Alvarez was going to be the player to take them to the promised land. It doesn't seem to be that case anymore. It seems that this is going to be Lookman's team, and he's come
in here in the middle of a season without a preseason under Simeone yet, and he has instantly become one of the team's 3 best players. Instantly.
Yes. And he's made players better, which is a sign of a star player. A player that not only contributes, but from the very beginning is able to make everybody playing around them better players. Exactly. That's a key. That's where you want to put your money. And turning the team into something that Lookman feels it can help him be more effective for the team. I think that's going to be the priority. And I'm not very sure if Atletico Madrid is going to morph into a different kind of team in the next season. Now that Griezmann is not going to be on the squad, I would say that this is going to be another era of uncertainty. But Simeone has skippered quite a few of these, of having to reinvent Atletico from scratch. And the rumor mill that is not only about players also talks about Simeone and how it feels unclear what's going to happen with Simeone under Apollo management, if they're going to push for a change, if Simeone is going to want to step away from the team, and now that Miguel Ángel Gil and Enrique Cerezo aren't so involved in the day-to-day operations, and he calls it a day the moment that the ownership is transferred and sets that as his farewell. I think it's a possibility. It's something that is definitely there. I would not have foreseen this at the beginning of the season, but I can see that happening.
6 weeks ago, I agreed with you. Now I think he's going to stay at least one more year. I could see I could see a scenario where he renews, but I think it is contingent on what happens this summer and what happens at the start of next year. And I wouldn't mind that, but it depends on whether Alamai has given him a squad that can win a title, has given him a squad that can compete for the Champions League, which is at the Metropolitano next year. So I think it is dependent on what happens this summer. But Mateo Moretto said earlier this week that he's like 95% certain that Simeone will stay. Moretto provided a bunch of transfer updates on Radio Marca today, saying that Mateo Alamai,
they're working a new deal. So
this was in Marca. Let me share this actually.
If you sign, if you extend Julian Alvarez and sign a new deal and sign him into a longer contract, I can see Simeone continuing. I think it's a connected situation.
Like if Alvarez leaves, we got a question about this right at the start of the show that I've been saving. What do we think about Barcelona trying to sign Alvarez? I think it's dirty pool. I think the techniques that they're using are frankly disgraceful, disrespectful to Atleti as an institution. Atleti are not going to have any appetite to sell Alvarez to a direct title rival, hence the renewal. I think this offer has been on the table for a little bit of time now, and if you're paying Alvarez 10 million net per season, that makes him behind Oblak the team's highest earner. And if Oblak leaves this summer, which I think he might, that makes Alvarez the highest earner, and that makes him the face of the franchise, so to speak, the face of the team. And Moretto said today on Radio Marca that Alvarez is still kind of thinking about it. Joan Laporta wants him CLC. He's the number one target, the dream, whatever. It's all politics with Laporta. But Moretto also did say that Alamai is a big fan of Ferran Torres, who is former player at Valencia, entering, I think, the last year of his contract at Barca. I personally am not a huge Ferran fan. I think he's good. I like him more than Sirloth, but I wouldn't be terribly moved by signing Ferran. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not the most exciting player I can think of poaching from Barcelona. I can think of 2 or 3 players I would rather poach.
Pedri, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal. I mean, Ferran's fine. He was awful in the cup tie in the semifinal, especially in the first leg. His lack of pressing ability directly contributed to Barca just collapsing as a team in that first leg. I think Ferran's fine, but I think we can do better than that. Alamai knows him, though. He knows Lee Kang-in. I know you're not a big Lee fan. I'm a bigger Lee fan than you, but I think they would sign Lee as Giuliano's competition, because Giuliano Simeone does not have a player to compete with on the right wing. It's his wing.
I'm a big.
How do you improve as a player with no competition?
If you ask me about Barcelona, I'm a big Gavi fan. I know that's not.
Love Gavi. Yeah, just can't stay healthy though.
A big Fermin fan, and Cubarsí. I think that Cubarsí would be a great addition. So those are
Fermin has surprised me. I didn't think he'd be this good, honestly. Awesome.
But what might be the next chapter of the rejected player from Barcelona moving on to Atleti Madrid? What about Lewandowski?
Yeah. I mean, Lewandowski.
On a Lewandowski on a revenge tour can be awesome.
Yeah.
You already have ingrained that hate for Real Madrid. You don't need to coach him on that. And he's going to want to smell the blood in every Barcelona match. So that would be awesome.
He can still score, but I just don't know how much in terms of managing the minutes and managing the appearances. I think a lot more would have to go into that than
I would swap him for Sorloth in a
heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. Yeah. I don't care about the ages there. I'm not looking at the age there.
A Ronald Araujo salvage project that wouldn't really move me either, because he's not very good on the ball, and he's got the bozo gene in him.
And it's the same situation with that we were talking with St. Kicks last week about Cuti Romero. It's not really sure if the moment that possibility, that window of adding them to your team has come and gone, and now wouldn't be an ideal moment anymore. I don't think that. I don't think I'm gonna be
last year. I think last year was the ideal moment. I would have spent 60 million on him last year. I don't think I would do that this year. I don't think I would. Like if the price comes down to 40, yeah, because I think Romero would be such a good fit here. I think he's like maybe the ideal Simeone center back.
I
But
would swap him
the
for
injury
Molina.
record, the disciplinary record,
We can
the
send
fee.
Molina to Tottenham now that he has.
Send Molina to Spurs in part exchange. Yeah, sure. Sure. Let's see. There was something else in the chat that I wanted to bring up. They want to know what we think of Rodri's comments at Spain camp.
What we think of Rodri, I just think he's Madridista. His family has always been Madridista, and that's the way it is. And
Atletico has never really meant much to Rodri.
No, I mean he decided to move on. He had the opportunity to play here. He wanted to go play for Guardiola, and now he wants to make a move back. And he's set the option clear that he wouldn't be the first player to do that. Is that being betrayal? What is exactly that? Because the quote that I heard from Rodri today is, "I wouldn't be the first player to do that." When he was asked about moving from another team to Real Madrid, having been an Atletico Madrid player, and that is absolute betrayal 101. It's like, okay,
to me, it is mostly like the same thing that I feel about Courtois now. I mean, Courtois was just a loan player, but he spent an awful long time here on loan. Rodri's from the academy. Rodri played in the first team. I feel no different about Rodri than I feel about Courtois. Whatever, man.
Yeah, really.
Go play for Real Madrid if you want to with your cooked knee.
I think anyway that in the case of Rodrigo, he's probably played 15 of his 20 best games, if not more.
I mean, he's been good since he returned from the knee injury, but not Ballon d'Or anymore.
No.
I don't really see that.
And
like there's a reason City are entertaining the idea of letting him leave.
He's turning 30.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he's past his prime. I really couldn't care less. From the point of view of an Atletico fan, I think that Atletico Madrid is going in a different direction, and that's that. If he wants to move in that direction, it's fine by me. He'll get booed to hell every time he comes to Metropolitano, and that's the end of it.
Yep. It's really about it. I mean, the year Rodri was here, he was individually awesome, but he never quite clicked with Simeone. Their ideas of football are a little bit different. And I think that's the reason why playing for Guardiola really attracted him. And that's great.
I'm not sure Rodrigo could have become a better player. He played consistently here, and he didn't play as well. We had the same situation with Cardoso at the beginning. Sometimes these players have to create a network of feeling comfortable in the system and learning how to play within the defensive constraints that Atletico Madrid has. Atletico Madrid has always been, under Simeone's helm, a team that is aware of ball security, and that's not a bad thing. And I think that he just didn't have the patience to stay and play for Simeone, or he found playing for Guardiola more attractive. In any case, he moved on, and
so
the fans have moved on from him. And
got a question.
I just saying Barrios will surpass Rodri, and I agree.
Yeah, I saw Saif saying that Barrios will surpass Rodri.
Why does Ricky not like Lee?
Question directly for you, man. Why don't you like Lee?
I just don't think he's as spectacular as his price tag is. That's it. I just think he's a little bit overpriced. Nothing against the kid. I just don't think he's a top tier player, and I think that Atletico Madrid have to aim at splashing the big bucks on top tier players.
Well, fair enough. We will see if Lee does come to Atleti this summer. Joaquin Panicelli as well, who's playing at Strasbourg. He's part of Blueco, like the whole Chelsea the consortium that owns Chelsea. Moreto was linking Atleti with him today, but I feel like it's more likely he goes to Chelsea because it's a natural move, Strasbourg to Chelsea. But he would be more of a Sturloth replacement, and he's Argentinian, so he would have a home here if he wants it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, there's always space for one more Argentinian, apparently.
Yeah. All right, we have gone over an hour, so I think we're probably going to leave it here for our first live episode of the show. I think this went really well.
That was cool.
I think it was great. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the comments, the questions in the chat. You guys rock. And we will be back next week for another episode of that Atleti Podcast, international break style. We're going to be previewing the Barca game at the weekend, talking about international break. Anything else that develops in the next week, we will be right back here to talk about it. So like and subscribe to the channel if you're here for the first time. Leave a comment as well. The audio only version of this stream, I'm going to get to work on that as soon as we're done here, so it'll be up later tonight. Thank you all for being here. All Atleti. Adios.
Thank you.